Good morning again, everybody. Thank you for joining this short seminar on some tips and tricks on how to submit a successful EURIPIDES PENTA proposal under the current Joint Call 2021. There's a lot of information that we're going to cover in a very short period of time. If I can make the slide move, that would help. And so I'll get on with it straight away. I'm delighted to be supported by Scheherazade and Patrick from the office team, and Wolfgang Dettmann and Patrick Pieper, who are two of our technical experts who are engaged with reviewing the projects and, most importantly, giving advice to project submitters on how to improve them between the project outline and full project proposal stage. So probably, if you're going to take away anything from this discussion, it is that you need to be really aware of your audience, or should I say audiences, when you submit your project outline. Your project, once it comes in at the end of next month, will be reviewed in detail by our technical experts and by national funding authorities. Technical experts will be looking at the project as a whole. Will it have impact? Does it have high quality? Is it viable? Does it really push the state of the art? Do you know where you're going? Is the consortium appropriate? Is this a stretch project? We don't do engineering projects. We do projects that make a change, make a difference. So is this really a stretch project with risk, but nevertheless achievable in the end? And of course, is it relevant to the PENTA and EURIPIDES program as defined by the SRIA? That seems all fairly straightforward and logical, and both Wolfgang and Patrick shortly will give you some ideas about what they would like to see in that area. However, this is where the alternative audience come in, which is of course the national funding bodies, the national public authorities. And they will of course consider the project in terms of their national return. They are ultimately, hopefully, putting money into this collaborative program. And naturally enough and correctly, they would like to see impact. They would like to see return on investment in their country because of that. They'd like to see their SMEs growing. They'd like to see new technology available in the country. They'd like to see their academic ideas being brought onto the marketplace. They'd like to see spin-offs appearing. They'd like to see their national champions becoming stronger in the global market. And so when you submit your project, you must be aware that not only must your overall project be viable, but also all of those national issues are clearly understood by you and clearly addressed by you, so that it is an obvious investment for the national public authority in your project. So this you'll see reflected as we go on further through the discussion. And don't hesitate to talk to us and talk to your national funding body representatives to get advice on how to do this. So with that, I'd like to hand over first to Patrick Pieper, who is the chair of the technical expert group, who will review any project outlines, followed immediately by Wolfgang.
Okay,
Patrick.
Thank you, Peter. So welcome everyone to the second day of the ECS brokerage. And as Peter stated, I will give you some tips and tricks on how to submit a good proposal. So first of all, you see we have an overall evaluation sheet where we look to the different criteria and where we make, in fact, an analysis on how good the proposal is covering the different criteria. What is important to mention in this evaluation is that the evaluation is done along 3 axes when you submit the project outline. The first axe is what is the technical quality of the proposal, and you will see in these slides and the next slides, and also Wolfgang will cover part of it, what this means, the technical quality of the proposal, what are the criteria we look into. The second axe is what is the potential of the proposal, which means what is the real potential to have an impact at FPP stage. This is an evaluation which we only do at the project outline because we want to look further than what is purely written on paper. We also want to see what could be the impact in Europe, what could be the impact from a technological perspective on the results of this project in the future. because sometimes a proposal is maybe not the best quality but has a high potential, and that's good. Sometimes a proposal at PO is a very good quality but the potential is lower, and these criteria are discussed in order to make sure that at FPP stage you can cover the strengths and you can cover the shortcomings and make sure your FPP is much stronger than the PO stage. The third axis is the evaluation by the public authorities. We are not covering this in this presentation here because this differs country by country, and there you have to look at what are the important criteria that your country is using to evaluate the proposals. So we focus on the technical quality and the potential of the project by our community. So here you see how the evaluation is done. We have a number of pluses, we have a number of minuses. They are on all the criteria which will follow on the next slides. And then we also have some recommendations. Oops, Peter, you're too fast. Yes, some recommendations for the full project proposal or for a new submission in the future. Some are mandatory, so they need to be covered. Some are recommended. It means that it would be nice to cover them, but it's not a must-have. So next slide. So the first thing we look into, it's the rationale of the project. And you see here 3 criteria: the one-page description, the problem statement, the market value chain, the project innovations, and the technology value chain, or the 3 elements in the rationale of the project. And in each of these, we have a certain criteria. We indicate whether it is good, very good, weak, or needs further improvement. So we have a number of standard evaluations here. We don't give a score, but we give a description of how good these different criteria are. What is very important is please take care of your one-page description. This is the most important part to me for the proposal, because this is the starting point for the evaluators to read. And if you're attracted by this, then you are eager to continue reading. It needs to trigger the attention to state like, hey, this is an interesting proposal. I would like to know more details. If this is weak, then of course it gives already a bad impression. This does not mean that your proposal will be bad, but at least it gives a first bias into the evaluation. What is important here also is make sure that everything in your one-page description is consistent with what follows in the rest of the proposal. We have seen in the past that after the PO stage in the FPP, people change things in the proposal, but they forget to update the one-page description. And then there are inconsistencies. And of course, this is not what we are looking for. What is also important here, it's like when you start reading a novel, the first pages give you the impression, do I want to continue reading or do I want to stop here? And what is also important, please make sure your proposal is not a romantic novel, but rather a thriller where the evaluators are really eager to read until the end and to know what the final outcome will be. So problem statement, market value chain, I think this is quite evident. It needs to cover what problem you want to solve, the challenges that are there, the market value chain you address from initial ID to commercial implementation, who will be the actors, what will be the roles, etc. You can find all this criteria and these details in the template that you have to fill out. Project innovations, technology value chain, also very important. It should cover really what is the novelty, what is the key innovation, and what are the different elements in the technology value chains, what are the building blocks, the functions, and what is the role each partner is playing in this whole value chain. Then we also have a criterion on the writing quality, which means the readability, the focus, and the conciseness. What is important here is please avoid typos. It's very difficult to read if the text is full of typos, of sentences which are not well structured. Use as much as possible bullet points. It's more easy to read through 5 bullet points than to read through 2 pages of full text. So I would say, please structure your proposal and divide it in a number of bullet points. Avoid repetition. We have seen that sometimes sections are repeated in 3 parts of the proposal. Don't do that. I think once we have read this, it's okay if you continue reading the same sentences, the same text. This is not good for the easiness to read. And also, one picture tells more than 1,000 words. So please use pictures and explain the pictures instead of writing a full text. People know that I'm a very big fan of opera, but for these proposals, I would say don't write an opera, but write a very condensed rock song, which really leaves a strong impression at the end. So focus and conciseness is a very important aspect. So this I would like to conclude on these two slides, and then I would like to give the floor to Wolfgang to give us some more insights in the other criteria which we use for the evaluation of the proposals.
Yeah, hello, good morning to all. I hope everyone can hear me. Giving this nice overview from Patrick and Peter before, we want to see a story. And Patrick explained well that at the first pages, we want to get eager to read the full story. And the second part of this project outlines or full proposal template is about the content. And sometimes you as a writer get confused because some things you think you have to write twice, but as Peter explained, no. First there comes the overview, you attract the reader, you build up the story, and then we are coming to the details. And the section about impact is for us, is there a good story for a business case behind? Is it worth to spend money to facilitate the development? Do we understand it? And where are the 4 points there with market analysis, consortium market access? And if we talk about market analysis, we want to know the type of market, the business volume, and the main competitors. Because if you don't understand your competitors or the market positioning of yourself, you will fail later on. So we want that you bring to us that you have a good understanding of the impact in the market. And when it comes individually to the partners, partner market access, what's the market position of a partner, and what is the expected volume you want to address? Is it worth? Yeah, it comes to the question of money. Yeah, 10 times of the funding you want to get should be there as business value. It should be not a one-to-one thing. Yeah? And the impact of a project on the overall goals of PENTA, it's a relevance. What is about capabilities in Europe? It's written in the ECS SRA, but we want to target in the PENTA targets, and it's about employment. Do you secure future employment in Europe? Is there a technology landscape available? So that's the impact, more related to the business and to the future perspectives. The second part, for me, the core of a project, yeah, and on everything you can be a bit weak, but basically we as the technical expert group look at the technology. And if you, the first point is state-of-the-art analysis, because in a project you want to do something new. So for us, basic question behind, if you read that section, is there a good story for the technology? Is it worth to spend, again, money to develop something? What is new? Yeah, and what do we get out of a project, and is it not yet available? That's always the comparison we do. So state-of-the-art analysis must be there, and then the novelty in relation. And if you have a lot of novel things, there should be as well always, okay, we do it, and the state-of-the-art is that and that. What are the expected project outputs? What do we get out of a project? Please write it. Is it a demonstrator? Is it a new application? What can we do with it? And numbers, quantified objectives and quantification criteria. Numbers are always preferred compared to only percentages. What are numbers? Typically power efficiency, size, something disruptive new, what you have not had before, but that has to be explained in the state of the art. So that's basic, that's the core. And where you really should be very concise, not repeat, and bullet points for us, very good. Yeah. We go to the next page, consortium. is it a consortium or are there individual partners acting and it's just assembled and everyone does his own story? If it's that case, individual aspects, yeah, when it's not a thing for consortium. So therefore, what's the corporation added value on business level? Do we have already value chain partners? Can we test it? Do we have a partner like an OEM or an end user for the specification? Do we do the right developments? That's the benefit of a consortium funded. You work together for 3 years, you define requirements, you do the specifications together, that you don't have a market fail later on. Basically, that's the question behind added business level value. The same is technology-wise. Things, basic research, new explorations done at universities, research institutes, as well in companies, but not as much in companies. But putting them together, you get brilliant results. So what's the story behind is always the question. Why do you sit together? Why do you want to perform something together? And yeah, the partner contribution and strategic importance of the project, basically it's a summary. It's a part of the elevator pitch Patrick started with the overview, the one-pager, the story behind, the rationale of the project. When the business was details, the innovations are details, and that's again just a short summary for an elevator pitch. What do you do? Yeah, what's the strategy behind? I think that's my part, what I wanted to say. At the end, keep in mind, we are sitting there, basically there are 3 evaluators sitting 1.5 hours together, make a summary report out of 3 independent evaluations. And if we get the project and get the feeling what's interesting and can describe it, if there's a sound story behind, it's easy and you are well prepared.
Thank you, Wolfgang and Patrick. And I think an important thing to underline at the end of those comments is that the technical experts are, of course, there to review, but they're there to help. And one of the most important things that Patrick mentioned at the very beginning is you will receive a so-called consolidated feedback report once the project outline has been reviewed. That will provide both technical expert and public authority feedback as to how to improve your proposal at the full project proposal stage. And so, yes, we will be critical. Yes, we will be looking for real quality, real innovation, but at the same time, we want to make sure that as many of these projects both get funded and come to a successful conclusion at the end of their, however long it is, normally 3 years. So let's look at the public authorities now. We last year had a public authority survey where we were looking at what the wide variety of public authorities, some 20 plus that we work with, want to get out of your submissions, want to get out of these projects. And one of the first things that came out was that what I said at the beginning, and this is why we're saying it, the focus of the evaluation on average from the public authority viewpoint is some 75% on the national consortium bid under and 25–30% on the overall project. Both are important because you wouldn't have any benefit in the national arena if the old project wasn't, the overall project wasn't there. But you can see there's a difference in emphasis from what you've just heard from Patrick and Wolfgang. And when the public authorities look at a proposal, these are the sort of things that they expect to see. And so you see right at the far left of this chart, in-country, societal and economic benefits. That's what they're looking for. Of course they are, because it's public money that's being invested if this project goes ahead. But of course, it's very interesting to see the next 3: innovation, collaboration, and SME participation. Wolfgang already mentioned the importance of making sure that your consortia is a consortium and not just a group of people who happen to be doing something in a project. Patrick mentioned the importance of Wolfgang also mentioned state of the art and wanting to see the state of the art moving. And so those areas are common and need to be involved, and SME participation, you'll find in many countries, is a high priority for obvious reasons. It's the way to develop companies, develop economies, develop employment, develop revenue, and so on and so forth. And then there are many other reasons for a country wanting to see one of these proposals. Then when they actually evaluate your project outline and ultimately the FPP, there are some practical features that you need to be aware of. There are rules, of course, in each country, and in each country the rules are different. And unless you're financially eligible to be part of one of the proposals, you are not going to get funded. And so one of the first things that you must do at the beginning is discuss this with your national funding body and find out if you're even going to be eligible to be part of a project. And then you won't waste your time. And of course, you won't waste your partner's time in the project, or you find a way to make sure that you are eligible. The balanced consortium is important. Public authorities do not like to see 90% of the partners in one country and 10% in another. That doesn't work. They also like to see a mixture of enterprises in there. As we mentioned yesterday, this is a program for large enterprise, SME, research and technology organizations and academia, and it's nice to see a balance in there. In-country impact again, and so on and so forth. There is no clear press one button and you win. Essentially, you have to make sure that your project proposal addresses all of these elements, slant it towards the particular needs of your country, and at the same time, of course, make sure you meet the needs of the technical experts in terms of the overall project. So moving on now to the general process. In essence, the process submission is done in the so-called PENTA and EURIPIDES project zone. This is accessible via the PENTA website, for which you will need to register to get access to the project zone, and Scheherazade will talk about this in a minute. And there are two main channels for which information is sent into the system, creating the overall project. One, some direct information via the project zone, and then there are two files that you need to upload to complete the full application. We try and make this as compact as possible. We try and reduce the complexity as much as we can, but there is work to be done. And of course, it all needs to be coordinated between all of your partners. And so please start as soon as you possibly can, and then refine it towards the deadline. Don't leave it all to the last minute. Just before I hand over to Scheherazade, this is the overall process for both submitting a project outline and then ultimately going through to the funding decision. It starts with registering, of course, in the project zone. The light blue areas show the online inputs, and the dark blue areas the offline inputs, and we're going to go through those in a minute with Scheherazade. Once you've completed the individual elements, there's this thing that we call a merge, and the merge is what it sounds like. All of these disparate elements come together into a single project submission. This can be done multiple times during the process, and you can therefore quite early on get a feel of what your project looks like, and does it meet the criteria that you've just heard from Patrick and Wolfgang and the comments from the public authorities. Is it addressing those needs? If it isn't, take time to relook at it, reorganize, remove the duplications, make sure that you address the two audiences. Once the submission is put in by the deadline, then there will be parallel evaluations by the technical experts and the public authorities. The result of those evaluations will be a meeting together whereby the approval for the FPP will be agreed between both industry and the public authorities, and that's approval to submit an FPP. By the way, we will do our very best to make sure that projects that really do not have a chance of being funded or do not have sufficient potential are not invited for FPP. It sounds harsh, but nevertheless, why make you go through that work if really there's no opportunity? Best to understand the feedback that we'll give you and save that work for a future submission under another call. And then once it's approved for FPP, additional information is required, and we go through the cycle again with the idea that by September, October, we understand the funding position in any 1 year. So that's the overall process. I'd now like to hand over to Shahrazad and stop my sharing to take it to the next stage.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everybody. So I hope that you can hear me clearly and through the end of my presentation, also that I would keep my voice. So as mentioned by Peter just before, the submission process requires offline and online inputs. So we highly recommend you actually to go through the project zone as soon as possible at an early stage, even if you don't have your full picture for your project, because you will need to process some different stage and some administrative inputs. So the first thing to start your story or your book, as mentioned by Patrick, you will use the project zone, and you have firstly to register to the PENTA EURIPIDES project zone. And you have actually to, so you have in this slide the link that you should use. Once you have registered, you will need to edit your profile. So you can see here a summary. And it's important because we are functioning with your organization name. So it's important that it's clearly mentioned while you are editing your profile using the legal company name to avoid any issue afterwards when we go through your project, and especially I'm mentioning when you will be, if you are successful, we shall invoice you and we need to have the proper information. So here you can see that by editing your profile, you will have a drop-down menu which go through all the organizations that they are already informed in the system, provided by the system. And if you are missing your company name, of course, you shall enter it. So after this first pre-step, I would say we enter more in your creation of your project. And here it's summarizing all the kind of actions that you will need to do in the project zone. I will already underline that these different points, they are not linear. And that's why we emphasize that you start as soon as possible, because you will have all the time before until the deadline to be able to come back to your project to edit your data to your submission. So I will go through a little bit more in detail in each step, but basically you create your project using the tool. You just inform what we call the basics. The basics of the project, it's like your start date, the end date, plan of your project, the description, the summary of your project, this kind of basic information. Then the first thing that we ask you just after creating your project, and that we emphasize and highlight, it's to invite your partners, because it's an active, it requires an active action from your partner. You send an invitation using their business email address, and they have to reply to you and accept the invitation to be able to be part of your project. And then you have to go through all the different steps, editing the partners and editing the effort and cost of your project. Then the last and not least stage of the submission process through the project zone is to submit the project version, which has been a little bit underlined by, mentioned by Peter. It's to go through the merge system, which is the final step. And we warn you already today that to try to merge your project as soon as possible before the deadline, because you need to cross-check that your merge is properly done, that your document is consistent between the offline data that you have entered in the PO annex and the online data that you entered through the system. So this requires a little bit of time. And if you do that at the last minute, you won't be able to really go through and check the final document. So to get started, and mostly in this slide, we want to reinforce the fact that we are here to help. There is different way when you can get the information if in your submission you have question or you are stuck for any reason. The first thing is that it's an help online. When you enter directly your information, you have a blue box which is appearing, which is available through each step of your submission, which guides you on what you need to do to reach the final stage of your submission. For example, when you create your project, we remind you to edit the funding rationale, to edit your costs and effort, and to upload the PO annex. This is the first, I would say, step-by-step help. Then in the tool, you have also a help section, which you can click on it and you have like the main Q&A question that we have received and that we have faced in the past, and we try to give tips, we try to give advice. And finally, if you don't retrieve the necessary information or you are really stuck, you can email us at any time at the email address penta@aeneasoffice.org, and one of the team will get back to you as soon as possible. So to go further, so how you should provide the information. So as I mentioned, the project zone is quite straightforward tool, which use tabs that show you, in fact, all the step of your project. And you can feel free actually to come back to one of the stage before. The only thing is that you really have, and I really emphasize on that, invite your partners, and you have to use their business address and to make them aware that they have to accept it. In the edit of your project, you will have to mention the challenges of the SRIA. And already I mentioned that you can select multiple strategic challenges. And again, that you can, I really invite you to navigate through the tool as soon as possible, even if you don't have all the information, to be able to be more familiar and to avoid last minute issues. So to create this consortium, you will invite your partner. And in this slide, we would like to tell you that this is a collaborative tool, meaning that once you have a partner on board in your project, he can update himself his data. This is an access right tool. So it means that if you create your project, you will be identified as a project leader. So you will have the freedom to update any information, to edit any information, but your partner can edit their own information, will give you some freedom and a share of the work through your consortium. One thing that we would like also to mention here, because we receive a lot of questions with respect to this question at the beginning, at the start of your project. When you invite a person, you invite a contact via an organization email address. You can invite only one person per organization. If you invite several, we will have a multiple organization belonging to your project, which is a failure. So we have to avoid this question, and you can have on board several technical contacts from the same company. So you just need to invite them and to have them as associate when you go through the partners tab of your project. Then when you have this, all your partners on board, So they need to edit, obviously, their information. By this information, it's the details, their cost and effort. Also, all the information already at the PO stage regarding the invoicing details. And I would like here to reinforce that in this tool, you have a kind of help, online help. And here you can already see that for the description of a partner, you have an exclamation mark. And in all the submission step of your project, when you see this little logo, it means that it's a mandatory information that you have to provide to be able to submit your proposal. If you don't provide the information, you won't be able to submit. So this kind of guide you to your process to be able to anticipate any issue at the last minute. And at the end of my presentation, I will also show you that at the right side of your project page, you will have what we call a project checklist, which helps you to identify in one screen what you are still missing to provide to be able to go through your versions. And one other tip for you, it's also advised that you first make your full consortium in your project before editing your cost and effort. Then, as mentioned, and I will be quick on this slide because it has already been mentioned by Peter. It's just the fact that you have to provide the information regarding your rationale for funding, and we again reinforce that you contact your national public authorities at an early stage to be able to check that you have all the possibility to be eligible for this project, and that you are aware also of the conditions. And this is required, and it's mandatory that you put this information through the country types of your project, and that you edit, and that you also mention that you have contacted your national authority, and we ask you a summary of your input and your discussion of your public authorities. Then one of my main, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the main last stage of your submission of your project version is the fact to go through the management tab in your project and to be able to submit and finalize your project outline. In this page, in fact, you are able to upload the documents that are required for the finalization of your project. You are able also to have the PO-Annex template, which will be detailed by Patrick Roger just after my presentation. And we also required a PO project cost detail that you are able also to upload in this page. So we recommend that you obviously upload the annex at the beginning to be able to see what we are expecting from you and the division of information that are required from the PO-Annex template and from the tool. And one of the last advice that I can give you today, it's the fact that feel free at any time to, if you have finished or you think you have almost finished but not done completely your proposal, to be able to merge your proposal at any time. Each merge can be overwrite until the deadline. So it's a way from you to avoid typos, to read back to your proposal, to check if there is any mistake, and to be able also to avoid that you are stuck, and after to be able to be more to have a better proposal. Then I have finished my proposal, and I will hand over to Patrick, who will detail and give you some advice regarding more the annex template. Thank you, and good luck for your submission to all of you.
Okay, thank you, Shahrazad. I hope everybody can hear me and see me. So I'm going, yes, indeed, to, as was mentioned before, there are the data to be entered on the project zone, and there are also two files to be uploaded. One of them is the Excel cost file. It's really straightforward. I'm not going to go into that. And the other one is the Word annex template. And this is the one I'd like to go into now into some more details. First of all, so this template is available on the project zone. So you have to obviously to go and download it. And then the first thing you will notice is that there is a lot of green text, which is meant to give you indications, informations of what is expected in each of the sections. And really, I guess the best advice I could give here is read the green text, because it really normally says it all. And if it's not clear, don't hesitate, as Sherazad mentioned earlier, to contact the project office. We are here to help. Really what we want at the end, and I reinforce here the message that Peter gave earlier, is to help. We want as many good, successful projects as we can. So we are here to help at all the stage of your submission. Another key point is respect the page limits. So to paraphrase what Patrick Piper was saying earlier, we are looking for a thriller, not a romantic novel. And so, you know, the shorter actually your text, the better will be your impact towards the experts. And on the other hand, if you go on and on for pages to explain some things, then the experts will feel that you're not really mastering your subject. As was mentioned by Patrick Piper, don't forget a picture is worth 1,000 words. And finally, well, not many of us are native English speaker, but the rule of the game is that we have to submit in English and not in our native language. So this is, of course, an exercise which might not be obvious for all of us, but please make sure that you use correct English. Poor English, incorrect spelling makes it really hard for the evaluators to read. So, and it's not helping you. So if you have, you know, among your colleagues, somebody who happens to be fluent in English, even if he's not a specialist in the domain that you're addressing in your proposal, don't hesitate to have him read through your proposal to make sure that it is easily readable. This is something very important. Then going more into details. So first of all, I'll cover the introduction that was already covered by Patrick Piper. And as was said, this one-page project description, so obviously it's one page, no more. It's the elevator pitch. This is really, you know, you have this unique opportunity to get in contact with a technical expert, grab them, sell them your proposal. So what is your unique selling point here? What is it that we should be supporting this project? Really in a nutshell. And then you will go into more details. First level of details is the rationale of the project with two sections. First one about the problem statement and market value chain. And here what is really important is that you are describing, let's say, the overall environment in which your proposal is placing itself. So you're not talking about the project itself here, you're talking about the problem that you want to solve, and you're talking about the different actors, players of the market. So really, here you're trying to convince the evaluators that you have a good understanding on the context in which you are going later on to develop your solution. And then the second section here, which is, it's still an overview at this point, and you will have opportunity later in the document to go more into details, is about the project innovations, the technology value chain. So what is it you need to master to be able to deliver the product or the new ideas that you want to develop here, and why is it different from what exists. Again, at this stage, it's still at a very high level. You will have the opportunity later on to detail. Then we move to another section, which is about impact. Here, really, you're talking again about the market analysis, but here it's rather than the players themselves, it will be more maybe the size of the market. And a common mistake here that we unfortunately find in several of the proposals that we are evaluating is that the people tend not to be specific enough regarding the markets. For example, if you want to develop, I don't know, a new manufacturing execution system for the semiconductor industry, your market is not the 300 billion plus market of semiconductors. Your market is how much money the semiconductor manufacturing companies are putting into their manufacturing execution system. Okay, so try to find numbers which are as specific as possible to what you're trying to address as a market here. And then there is the consortium market access. Here you should be able to explain the evaluators that you are indeed able to address this the market you are targeting, and that you have the whole market chain up to the final customers that your project or your solution is targeting at. Again, here, if you have a whole, if you are, for example, only a consortium of universities, whatever great you are in terms of research, advanced research and technological excellence, there is a huge fear that you will not be able to go to the market being only universities. So that's the type of things here you want to make sure in your consortium that you have the whole value chain to deliver and to exploit the result of your project proposal. A new section this year is about sustainability. This is something that you know, all the public authorities are very keen to see, and we want to support that in PENTA and EURIPIDES, and this is why we have introduced this new section. So this is also new for the I would say repeat offenders of PENTA EURIPIDES proposals that might be sitting in the room today. And here we are asking you to describe your contribution to sustainability according to 4 levels. So is it incremental contribution to sustainability, meaning that this is our products that already exist, but with your innovation, you will improve the energy efficiency, for example, or you will decrease the waste, or you are able to recycle more or to prolong the life of a product. So this is the type of, let's say, continuous improvement that goes towards sustainability that we would put into a level 1. Level 2 would be still in that idea, but really to pushing the limits. So with a major redesign of existing products. Level 3 is there you have, you meet the same functional needs as you did with a previous product, but you do it with a completely different product, like, for example, teleconferencing as an alternative to travel, or you know, moving from fuel-based to electric cars, these type of things. And finally, level 4 is you completely change the business model, and again moving towards a more sustainable society. Here we want to insist that all claims will need to be substantiated. We have been discussing that with technical experts when we decided to introduce that section, and their big fear is that we will have let's say not substantiated claim, and people saying that they will save the planets, you know, because they think it's the right thing to write. No, please just write what is true and substantiated. And by the way, in all of those slides, I've been writing the maximum number of pages that are dedicated to each sections. It is a maximum, it is not an obligation. If you have, for any of the sections, if the maximum is 2 pages, but you only have, you know, half a page of valid content, put half a page of valid content. It's much better than putting, you know, half a page of valid content and then a page and a half of garbage, which will irritate the reader, the technical evaluator, and which really not help your case. So again, this is particularly a section where we want to see claims which are substantiated. But in all the sections, of course, we want to do that. And then we move to a section which is technology, and as Wolfgang rightly understressed before, this is really for the technical expert group the core of your of the proposal, and it starts with a state-of-the-art analysis, and you'll see here that the maximum is 3 pages, which is fairly long, you know, when you compare to other sections of this annex. And the reason why it's so long, or we provide you with this, you know, space, is that we really want to make sure here that you understand what is the state of the art. And by state of the art also, we don't mean state of your art. We have seen some consortiums that described here, you know, this is what we are capable of doing today. And then the next section, this is what we will be capable of doing, you know, after the project proposal. No, state of the art is really, you look at what's outside in the world, you know, so it's not a Me Too project. Project is really, you are aware of what is what is really the status outside, even if you're aware, and I know that's very difficult, but if you're aware of what some of the competitors are preparing, so not yet on the market, but what they are working on, this would be really worthwhile mentioning. And this is something that you might find, for example, when you read papers of conferences. Then the second section after that, after you've, you know, explained what is the status of the competition now, and maybe at the forecast end of your project, you will explain what is it that you're going to do which is different from what exists. So what are the significant breakthrough? Here we really, as Peter and others were mentioning, we are looking for innovation. We are not looking for Me Too project. We are not looking for purely engineering project, which you would be doing without public support anyway. We are, you know, you are provided financial help by public authorities to take risk and to go beyond the state of the art. So that's here where you will explain how you go beyond the state of the art. Expected project outputs here is what are the tangible results at the end. What's important also for the technical experts, we are not going to stop at the evaluation phase. We are going, if your project is funded, we are going to follow you throughout the whole and monitor you throughout the whole project, trying again to provide expertise and help here. But so for that, we need to be able to monitor that project. And so knowing what are the tangible results of this project proposal is very important for us. And finally, the summary of the project objectives also is in terms of what are the performances that you want to reach is very important. So we want key performance indicators here of your project, which have to be specific, measurable, achievable, ambitious but achievable, relevant. So why is this unique to your project, and timely, so we know when you want to achieve that performance level. And the last section I'm going to mention here is the consortium overview. This was actually very well explained by Wolfgang here, that we want to make sure that this is not a collection of individual people who happen to think that they have a better chance of getting public money by writing a proposal together. But these are people who are really going to work together, both on a technological level, so exchange knowledge, build together prototypes, new knowledge, and that are also going to be able to work together at the business level to address the markets they are targeting. And as Peter was mentioning, we want to make sure that we have no sleeping partners in here, which are here just because you think that they are well considered by the public authorities, and therefore having them aboard increases your chances of getting funded. Okay, so once you've entered the data in the project zone, and once you've filled in this project outline template, you will be able to upload the project outline annex. And as Shahrazad was mentioning earlier, it's important to note that you can do that as many times as you want before the deadline. And we encourage you to do that as early as you can, because then it allows to identify any problems that we might have, technical issues that we might have, and we will solve it with you again. Contact us as many times as you need to. We are here to help. Okay, and finally, before I give back the floor to Peter, the next step after that is the full project proposals, where basically you will fill in more or less the same information as in the project outline phase, except that you will go more into details. You will describe really the work packages of your projects here. You will have received, again, as Peter was mentioning, after the Peter and Patrick Piper as well, after this first project outline evaluation, you will have received a detailed feedback from the technical experts and from the public authorities. And this feedback is designed to help you make a good FPP. So please take that into account. There is nothing more irritating for the technical experts than to find out that their advice has been ignored. They spend a lot of time reading your proposal, trying to understand it, discussing it together, and writing those feedback. If you ignore them, again, you're not helping your chances here. So make sure you take the feedback of the public authorities and of the technical experts into account if you're invited for FPP. And with that, I'd like to give back the floor to Peter for the conclusion.
So we're a minute or two just over time. So a very quick summary at the end of this. First of all, thank you to all the presenters for giving their knowledge on this. But at the end, and this replicates what has been said throughout the story, is is make sure that you prove to the technical experts that you know what you're doing something new, and that there is real potential for this innovation that you're bringing in. We're not doing technological development just for fun. It really needs to be something that has a result for economically and hopefully societally as well. The consortium needs to be complementary with real cooperation between them, and that through that collaboration there is true added value. For the national public authorities, the project of course must be aligned to national priorities with impact for each country involved, and if they do not meet this criteria, I fear that you will not get through the project outline phase. So this is really important at project outline phase, that you address these issues and talk to your national public authorities. And so that's the bottom line. We are, all of us are here to help the national funding bodies, the technical experts, the office staff. We really want you to succeed. So do not hesitate to contact us in the office. Do not hesitate to contact your national authority contacts. And please, if you want to submit a project, get going now, so that when it hits the deadline coming up at the end of February, then it absolutely will be the best possible project that it can be. So thank you very much. Here are the contact details. The presentation will be available on the website. The video of this will be available on the website. You have our contact details. All I can wish you is very, very good luck for the project outline submission by the 26th of February, and we look forward to receiving as many high quality projects as possible. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Patrick, Sherazad, Wolfgang, and Patrick. I would like now to introduce the SME pitches, but first I would like to check the chat if there are any questions from the audience. So far I did not see only one question, how to involve associated partners for clinical assessment, which is not an R&D but a validation effort. Can they participate as subcontractors or by in-kind contributions?
Yes, there were several questions about involving different legal entities from the same country, and also this business with associated partners. It's all doable. It just needs to be done correctly. And so I recommend to anybody who's considering this, just contact the office and we'll tell you how to make sure that the correct participants can be involved. But there will be no roadblock for different entities to participate in a project.